So this is the needle. This is what starting over at 60 looks like. My doctor read me 3 numbers at my last physical: blood pressure, CRP, and apnea index. Then he said, these aren't 3 separate problems. This is one problem, and it's been running for years. That conversation changed everything I thought I knew about what was actually wrong with me. See, I'm an engineer, not a doctor. Everything I do here, I built in collaboration with my physician. Your biology is different from mine. Get your own labs done before anything else. This video, it isn't a prescription. It's a playbook. One day, documented in full, so you can see what this actually looks like in practice. Here's what you need to know before we start. By 9 a.m., I have already made the one decision that determines whether the entire protocol works or fails, and it has nothing to do with the injection. I'll get to that. But first, let me tell you what the day actually looks like. 4 parts: the injection and the sleep data, the inflammation work on the treadmill, the resistance session in protecting the asset, and the evening metrics that tie all of it together. When we've hit all 4, video's done, and you'll have the full picture. It's early. Kitchen counter. Morning light coming through. I check my Whoop score before I look at my phone, before coffee, before anything, because for the last 2 years, that number has been a mess. This morning, it wasn't, and I'm going to show you why that matters more than the injection. Here's what was actually happening while I slept. For years, I was getting what looked like enough sleep and waking up exhausted. I thought it was age, and it wasn't. Every time my airway collapsed at night, and it was happening dozens of times an hour, my body fired a full stress response. Heart rate spike, cortisol surge, blood pressure hammering the system. 8 hours of sleep. Really, 8 hours of physiological crisis. That's what the data was finally showing me. Most people treat sleep apnea like a snoring problem. It isn't. It's a cardiovascular problem wearing a sleep mask. Now, here's the clinical picture that changed how seriously I took this. The SURMOUNT-OSA Phase 3 trials looked specifically at patients with moderate to severe sleep apnea and obesity. After 52 weeks on Tirzepatide, the apnea hypoapnea index, that's the count of breathing disruptions per hour, dropped by up to 62.8%. 43% of patients in one cohort achieved full disease resolution. Not better managed. Gone. The airway physically clears as the fat surrounding it disappears. When the airway clears, the brain comes back online. The sleep score climbs. The morning production block becomes real instead of something you're grinding through on caffeine and willpower. Here's the part that almost stopped me, and the "is this safe long-term" question I know you're carrying right now. I don't evaluate safety in a vacuum. I evaluate it against the alternative: the slow fade, unmanaged blood pressure, chronic inflammation, fragmented sleep, compounding year after year. And that has a well-documented cost, too. My physician and I looked at 3 active metabolic problems already on the chart and ran the math. The answer was clear. Now, I know that some of you are thinking, GLP-1s are a cheat code. Well, here's my response. A tool is only as good as the infrastructure you build around it. The injection doesn't do the work. You still have to. Everything you're about to see is that infrastructure. I do the injection. I log it. 12 seconds, once a week. Here's the thing most people don't understand. That shot is the opening condition, not the result. What happens in the next 16 hours is what determines everything. Let me show you. Midday, the treadmill. This is the part I want you to pay attention to, because what I'm about to tell you is the piece my doctor said most people never understand about what's actually driving the damage. There's a term in gerontology: inflammaging, slow chronic inflammation that accumulates as you age, dramatically accelerated when you're carrying excess visceral fat. And here's the part most miss. That fat isn't just stored energy waiting to be burned. It's active. Visceral fat constantly pumps inflammatory signals into your bloodstream. Your immune system responds like it's fighting an infection that never ends. That was showing up in my CRP numbers. That was accelerating the damage, and I had no idea that it had a name. The liver takes the hardest hit from this. The Synergy-NASH trial enrolled patients with biopsy-confirmed liver disease at stage 2 or 3 fibrosis, advanced, dangerous territory. At the highest tirzepatide dose, 73.3% of patients achieved complete histological resolution. Over half saw actual fibrosis regression. Scar tissue in the liver just physically reversed. Fibrosis is supposed to be permanent. When I read that finding, I stopped thinking about this as a weight loss drug and started thinking about it as damage repair. On the inflammation side, SURMOUNT-1 post-hoc data showed high sensitivity CRP dropping 51 to 65% over 72 weeks. That number was in my lab results. It wasn't abstract. Here's the part that almost stopped me. Muscle loss. DEXA data from SURMOUNT-1 showed the weight loss on tirzepatide breaks down roughly 75% fat, 25% lean mass. That 25% is the number to manage. But here's the thing. Patients who combined tirzepatide with structured resistance training and hit their protein targets restricted lean mass loss to as low as 3% of total weight lost. That's not a passive outcome. You have to earn it. And earning it is exactly what the afternoon session is for. Step count is my metabolic baseline right now, not a fitness flex. I'm not training for a race. I'm keeping the engine running at the level that supports everything else. The inflammation piece is the infrastructure play, but the reason I actually committed to this protocol was the cardiovascular data, and I want to walk you through that over dinner. Back home, mid-afternoon, weights set up, nothing elaborate. This is where the engineering problem gets concrete. The drug creates a caloric deficit. Your body will fill it from somewhere. The question is, do you decide where it comes from? Does your body decide? This is how you take control of that answer. When you combine tirzepatide with progressive resistance training and consistent protein intake, lean mass losses drop to as low as 3% of total weight lost. Some patients actually gained lean tissue while simultaneously dropping significant amounts of fat. That outcome doesn't happen by accident. It requires treating muscle as the asset it is, something you actively protect, not something you just hope survives the process. The protocol: 2 to 4 resistance sessions per week, compound movements, all major muscle groups, squats, presses, rows, hinges, nothing fancy. The point isn't to become a competitive lifter. The point is to send a consistent signal to the body that the muscle is still needed so it doesn't get cannibalized when the deficit kicks in. The protein target: 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of ideal body weight daily, spread across meals, 25 to 40 grams per sitting. Eggs, Greek yogurt, fish, whey when appetite is low. Drug delays gastric emptying, so you won't always feel hungry. That's exactly when you have to be intentional about hitting the number anyway. One thing most people miss: when appetite drops this hard, so does your micronutrient intake. Calcium, D, B12, zinc, I treat those as a separate protocol. Blood panels every 90 days keep me honest. I'll link the panel list below. Now, evening time, kitchen, some lean protein, maybe a couple eggs, Greek yogurt for later. I'm not eating because I'm hungry. I'm eating because the numbers require it. 3 numbers: sleep score, steps, protein. Everything else is noise. Right now I'm on track, but here's what this dashboard doesn't show, and this is the most important piece. No weight on the dashboard, not because I'm avoiding accountability, but because weight is a lagging, noisy indicator that doesn't tell me anything useful day to day. Capacity tells me more. Can I think clearly? Can I move without bracing? Am I recovering? These are the real metrics at 60. Now, the cardiovascular data, because this is what finally closed the loop for me on whether the math was right. The SUMMIT trial followed patients with heart failure and obesity for up to 3 years. Tirzepatide produced a 38% reduction in the combined risk of cardiovascular death or worsening heart failure for a condition that has historically resisted almost every pharmacological intervention thrown at it. And in the blood pressure data from SURMOUNT-1, 58% of participants reached fully normal blood pressure by 72 weeks. Go back to the beginning. 3 numbers: blood pressure, inflammation, sleep apnea. 3 separate numbers with 1 root cause: visceral fat doing systemic damage across every major organ system. Blood pressure improving as visceral fat drops and the kidneys decompress. Inflammation suppressed by the drug's mechanism and then structurally eliminated as the fat tissue shrinks. Sleep apnea physically resolving as the airway clears. One intervention, 3 problems addressed at the root. Not managed, actually addressed. This is the 10-year horizon, not a 6-week transformation, not a before and after photo. The ability to stay sharp, stay productive, stay physically independent, well into the 3rd act. That's what's actually at stake. The window to build that foundation doesn't stay open forever. This is me using it while it's still open. The injection is just the starting point. What determines the outcome is everything built around it. The protein, the resistance work, the sleep tracking, the blood panels. 3 problems, 1 root cause. 1 year to find out if I got the math right. I'm documenting all of it. The panels, the recomps, the protocol adjustments, inside still standing. If you're doing this kind of work seriously, that's where the real conversation is. The link is below. The next video, what happens when the appetite suppression stops working? You need to know this before it happens to you, and I'll see you there.